I watched my wife climb out of another man's truck through my own kitchen window, her hair messed in a way that told the whole story. She smoothed her dress, checked her reflection in the side mirror, and walked toward our front door wearing the same satisfied smile she used to save for me. In her purse was a condom wrapper I'd sealed shut with superglue 20 minutes earlier. She had no idea that her affair was about to become the least of her problems. Before we go any further, welcome back to Revenge Stories with Kyle, and if this is your first time watching any of our videos, we encourage you to hit that subscribe button. Your support means the world to us, and it motivates us to continue creating even more powerful stories for you. So, stick with us to the very end. And if this story moves you, drop your comments and share with a friend. Now let's dive back in. The condom wrapper crinkled between my fingers as I squeezed the superglue tube, watching the clear adhesive seal the edges with surgical precision. My hands were steady. 23 years of meteorology had taught me that preparation is everything, and timing is life or death. In 6 hours, my wife would reach into her purse for this little foil packet during her book club meeting with Derek, and they'd discover that some storms arrive without warning. I set the packet back exactly where I'd found it, nestled between her lipstick and breath mints, and checked my watch. 11:47 a.m. The forecast called for sunny skies, but I was about to create the perfect storm. My name is Cassandra Cass Chen, and at 44, I'm the lead meteorologist for KWTX News Channel 7 in Waco, Texas. For over 20 years, I've been the voice that warns people when destruction is coming. Tornadoes, hurricanes, flash floods. I've saved countless lives by reading patterns others miss, by seeing the signs that spell disaster long before the first drop of rain falls. And for the past 4 months, I've been tracking the biggest storm of my life. My career began during college at Texas A&M, where I was one of only 3 women in the atmospheric sciences program. While my classmates partied, I spent nights in the lab, fascinated by the chaos theory of weather patterns, how a butterfly's wings in Brazil could trigger a hurricane in Houston. I was obsessed with the idea that everything is connected, that if you understand the system well enough, you can predict the unpredictable. I met James during my first job at a small station in Amarillo. He was the new sports anchor, 6'2", sandy hair, the kind of easy charm that made viewers feel like they were their buddy. We bonded over long hours and terrible station coffee, over dreams of making it to bigger markets and better opportunities. When I got offered the position in Waco, James followed. When he proposed 2 years later, it felt inevitable, like a high-pressure system moving toward low pressure. Natural, predictable, right. For 18 years, we were the golden couple of local television. Cass and James Chen Morrison, the hyphenated names a compromise that satisfied both our careers. We bought a beautiful house in the historic district with a wraparound porch and a garden where I grew heirloom tomatoes. We tried for children, but couldn't conceive. And eventually the trying became too painful, so we poured our parental energy into our careers instead. James became the sports director. I worked my way up to chief meteorologist, then added the title of emergency management coordinator. When Hurricane Harvey hit in 2017, I stayed on air for 36 hours straight, coordinating rescues and saving lives. The governor personally thanked me. James was proud, supportive, perfect. But hurricanes aren't the only disasters that take years to develop. The first sign was subtle. A shift in atmospheric pressure so slight you'd miss it unless you knew what to look for. Last December, James started working out. Not unusual for a 42-year-old man worried about his health, except James had always been naturally fit, naturally confident about his body. This felt different, more focused, more purposeful. Then came the new cologne, the updated wardrobe, the way he started checking his phone during dinner, holding it at an angle that kept the screen from my view. Little disturbances in his normal pattern, like wind shear before a tornado. I didn't investigate immediately. After all, storms can fizzle out before they form. But when the signs persisted into January, I started paying attention with professional intensity. The breakthrough came in February during a particularly busy severe weather week. I was tracking a supercell moving through McLennan County when I overheard James on the phone in his office next door. "I can't wait either, but we have to be careful." he was saying, his voice lower than his usual broadcaster baritone. Cass has been working crazy hours with the storm system. Maybe next week when things calm down. A pause, then laughter I hadn't heard in years. Derek, you're terrible. But yes, I've been thinking about it too. Derek. I knew that name. Derek Hawthorne, the new producer who'd started in January. 28 years old, fresh out of graduate school, with the kind of hipster aesthetic that made our veteran crew roll their eyes. Thick frame glasses, artfully messy hair, always carrying a leather satchel like he was heading to a poetry reading. The meteorologist in me immediately began collecting data. James's schedule, cross-reference with Derek's, credit card statements showing lunches at restaurants we'd never been to together, late nights at the station that didn't correspond to any scheduled programming. The pattern emerged like a storm track on Doppler radar. Clear, undeniable, devastating. But I didn't confront them. Instead, I did what I always do when a dangerous system approaches. I prepared, I planned, and I waited for the perfect moment to issue my warning. The plan required patience and precision. For 3 months, I documented everything while maintaining the perfect facade of the oblivious wife. I smiled at station parties, made small talk with Derek about his innovative ideas for weather presentation, even complimented James on how happy he seemed lately. Meanwhile, I was building the case that would destroy them both. See, James and Derek thought they were being clever, but they'd made a critical error. They'd underestimated a meteorologist's ability to track patterns. Every secret lunch, every coded text message, every excuse about working late was recorded in my private files. I had bank statements, cell phone records, even security footage from the hotel where they'd been meeting twice a week. But evidence was just the foundation. The real art was in understanding their weaknesses, their pressure points, the exact conditions that would create maximum destruction. James's weakness was his career. He'd spent 20 years building his reputation in this market, becoming the trusted voice for high school football and college basketball. His identity was wrapped up in being the guy everyone liked, the professional everyone respected. Derek's weakness was simpler. He was young, ambitious, and terrified of being exposed as the homewrecker who'd seduced a married colleague. He'd worked hard to shed his privileged background, son of a Dallas oil executive who'd disowned him for being gay, and create his own identity in broadcasting. Both of them were about to learn that some storms can't be outrun. The condom wrapper was just the opening act. While they were dealing with their sticky situation at Derek's apartment, I was 3 miles away at the station, uploading their entire affair to the shared server that feeds our morning show prep system. I'd spent weeks crafting the perfect exposé, not just the sordid details of their relationship, but a complete timeline showing how their affair had influenced station programming. Derek's creative suggestions for weather segments that gave James more screen time. The suspicious scheduling that always put them alone together during late-night shows. Even budget allocations that favored sports over weather, despite my higher ratings. The beauty was in the presentation. I formatted it like a meteorological report. The formation and development of unprofessional conduct. A case study in workplace ethics violations. Complete with charts, graphs, and photographic evidence. Professional, thorough, devastating. But I didn't send it to management. Not yet. First, I needed to create the perfect atmospheric conditions. Thursday morning, I called in sick for the first time in 3 years. Instead of going to work, I drove to Dallas and met with Catherine Brennan, the news director at KXAS NBC5. Catherine and I had worked together early in our careers, and she'd been trying to recruit me for years. "Cass," she hugged me like a long-lost sister. "Please tell me you're finally ready to make the jump to a major market." Actually, I am, but I need to know the offer comes with certain protections. I showed her my documentation, not the affair details, that would come later, but the professional interference, the budget manipulations, the way my expertise had been systematically undermined to benefit James's career. Catherine's eyes narrowed as she read. This is lawsuit material. It's about to get worse. I need a firm offer, Catherine, something I can announce publicly, and I need it today. 3 hours later, I had a contract making me the chief meteorologist at one of the top-rated stations in the fifth largest TV market in America. Triple my current salary, my own weather center, a team of 5 junior meteorologists, everything I'd dreamed of for 20 years. Phase 2 began at 4 p.m. when I called James. "Sweetheart, are you feeling better?" His concern sounded genuine, which made what came next even more satisfying. "Much better. In fact, I have incredible news. Are you sitting down?" "What's going on?" NBC5 offered me the chief meteorologist position in Dallas. Can you believe it?" The silence stretched long enough for me to count heartbeats. "Dallas? But we've built our whole life here. The house, our careers." "I know it's sudden, but it's the opportunity of a lifetime. And James, they want to meet with you too. Apparently they need a sports director, and I may have mentioned how talented you are." Another pause. I could practically hear his brain short-circuiting as he tried to reconcile this news with his secret life. "When would we need to move?" "Well, I start Monday. I know it's fast, but Monday? That's in 4 days." "I know, baby, it's crazy timing, but sometimes you have to chase the storm, right?" That evening, James came home looking like a man facing execution. He'd clearly spent the afternoon in crisis mode with Derek, trying to figure out how to handle this unexpected development. "Cass, we need to talk about this Dallas thing." I looked up from my laptop where I'd been researching neighborhoods and gave him my brightest smile. "Isn't it exciting? A fresh start for both of us." "But it's so sudden. Maybe we should think about it. Talk to people, get advice." "What kind of advice?" "James, this is NBC5. This is everything we've worked toward." He sat down heavily, running his hands through his hair. "It's just, I'm not sure I'm ready for such a big change." Perfect opening. "You know what? You're right. This is huge, life-changing." I closed the laptop and turned to face him fully. "We should probably discuss all the big changes happening in our lives." Something in my tone made him look up sharply. "What do you mean?" I pulled out my phone and opened the photo gallery, specifically the folder labeled Documentation. The first image was James and Derek walking into the Marriott, hands clasped, Derek laughing at something James had whispered in his ear. I mean, changes like this. His face went white as I swiped to the next photo, and the next, and the next. "James, I can explain." "Oh, I'm sure you can, James. You're very good with words, which is why you're so successful on television." I stood up, walked to the window, looked out at the garden where we'd planted those tomatoes together years ago. But here's the thing about explanations. They're like weather forecasts. They only matter if they help people prepare for what's coming. What's coming? I turned back to him, and for the first time in months, I let him see the storm in my eyes. "Derek's phone has been disconnected. Did you know that? Happened about an hour ago, right around the time he was supposed to be meeting with HR about some concerning workplace behavior." James's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. "You can't. Our careers." "Your careers," I corrected. "Mine is just fine. Flourishing, actually. NBC5 is very interested in a meteorologist who values professional integrity." The next few hours were a masterpiece of controlled destruction. James tried anger, denial, bargaining, tears, the full meteorological cycle of human emotion, but I was done being moved by his weather patterns. Derek, meanwhile, had apparently suffered some kind of breakdown at work. According to my sources at the station, he'd spent the afternoon making frantic calls, trying to reach James, before finally clearing out his desk and leaving without a word to anyone. By Friday morning, the story was spreading through the station like wildfire. The general manager called an emergency meeting. HR launched a formal investigation. James was suspended pending review, and Derek was simply gone, vanished like a dissipating storm system. But the real beauty was yet to come. Saturday afternoon, I was packing boxes in my home office when James appeared in the doorway, looking haggard and defeated. "Where's Derek?" he asked quietly. "I have no idea. Why would I know where Derek is?" "James, please, I need to talk to him. His phone's disconnected. He's not at his apartment. He's not answering emails. I looked up from the box of awards and certificates I was packing. Maybe he's following his own weather pattern, James. Some people run from storms instead of tracking them. What do you mean? I pulled out my phone and showed him a news article from the Dallas Morning News. Local television producer enters rehabilitation facility for stress and addiction issues. Apparently, Derek checked himself into a facility in Colorado yesterday. Very exclusive, very private. The kind of place where people go to disappear for a while and figure out their lives. James staggered backward like I'd struck him. He's gone? I seem the pressure of recent events became too much for him. Poor thing. I suppose some people aren't built for severe weather. The investigation concluded the following Tuesday. James was terminated for violation of professional conduct policies. Derek was officially listed as having resigned for personal reasons. The scandal was contained within the station, managed with the kind of professional discretion that protects everyone's reputation, except the guilty parties. I started at NBC5 the following Monday, to great fanfare and excellent press coverage. The story was simple and inspiring. Veteran meteorologist makes the leap to major market after 20 years of dedicated service. No mention of affairs, investigations, or ruined marriages. James tried to contact me several times during those first few weeks. Long voicemails, tearful emails, even flowers sent to my new apartment in Dallas. But I'd learned to track human storms as precisely as I tracked weather systems, and I could see exactly where his desperation was heading. The divorce was swift and clean. We'd been smart about keeping our finances separate, and I had no interest in dragging things out. James kept the house, the debt, and whatever remained of his reputation in Waco. I kept my career, my dignity, and the satisfaction of knowing that sometimes the best forecast is the one that warns people to seek shelter. 6 months later, I ran into James at a broadcasting conference in Austin. He looked older, grayer, like he'd weathered a particularly brutal storm season. He was working at a small station in Lubbock, a significant step down from his previous position. "Cass," he said, approaching cautiously like I was an unpredictable weather system, "you look incredible." I did. The new job agreed with me. I'd lost 15 pounds, updated my wardrobe, even changed my hair. Success is the best cosmetic. "Thank you. How are you, James?" "I'm managing. Lubbock's not Dallas, but it's a good station. Good people." We made small talk about work, the conference, the weather, ironically, the weather. Finally, he asked the question I'd been waiting for. "Have you heard from Derek?" I sipped my conference coffee and considered my answer carefully. "Actually, yes. He sent me a thank you card last month." James's face went pale. "A thank you card?" "From Colorado. Apparently, the rehabilitation program went very well. He's sober now, working for an environmental nonprofit in Boulder. Seems happy." He thanked you?" "For helping him see that sometimes the best way to survive a storm is to change direction completely." I watched James process this information, saw the moment he realized that Derek had moved on completely while he was still trapped in the wreckage of their affair. "Cass, I need you to know that I never meant for any of this to happen. What Derek and I had, it didn't mean what you think it meant." I set down my coffee and looked at him with the same professional detachment I used to deliver severe weather warnings. "James, do you know what the most dangerous part of a tornado is?" The winds? "No, it's the false calm in the eye. People think they're safe, so they come out of their shelters too early. That's when most tornado fatalities occur, not from the initial impact, but from people who misread the conditions and got caught in the secondary destruction. I picked up my purse and conference materials. You and Derek were so focused on the excitement of your affair that you never noticed the storm system building around you. And when the real winds hit, you discovered that what you thought was love was just the eye of something much more destructive. He started to say something, but I was already walking away. Take care of yourself, James, and next time you see severe weather approaching, I suggest you take shelter. That conversation was 2 years ago. I'm now the chief meteorologist at the #1 station in the Dallas-Fort Worth market, with a staff of 12 and a weather center that's the envy of every broadcaster in Texas. I've won 3 Emmy Awards, been featured in National Weather Service training videos, and last year I was invited to speak at the National Hurricane Center about innovative forecasting techniques. James is still in Lubbock, as far as I know. Derek sent me a Christmas card last year. He's married now, to a park ranger he met in Colorado. They look happy in their hiking boots and matching fleece jackets, like they've found the kind of simple contentment that doesn't require deception. I never remarried. I date occasionally, but I'm more cautious about reading the signs now. I've learned that the most dangerous storms are often the ones that develop slowly, quietly, in conditions that seem perfectly stable. But I've also learned that surviving a Category 5 emotional hurricane makes you stronger, more resilient, better at predicting when the next one might be forming on the horizon. People ask me sometimes if I regret how things ended, if I wish I'd handled the situation differently. My answer is always the same. Meteorologists don't create storms. We just track them and warn people when they're coming. The destruction was always inevitable once the atmospheric conditions aligned. I just made sure I was in a safe location when it hit. The truth is, revenge is a lot like weather forecasting. It requires patience, precision, and perfect timing. You have to understand the system completely, where it's been, where it's going, what conditions will make it stronger or weaker. And then you have to trust your data, even when everyone around you is still enjoying the calm before the storm. James and Derek thought they were chasing excitement, passion, something real. But what they were actually doing was creating the perfect conditions for their own destruction. All I did was step out of the way and let nature take its course. Because sometimes the most beautiful forecast is the one that predicts clear skies after the storm has passed. If you loved and enjoyed this story, do not forget to hit that subscribe button, like this video, and share it. Until our next update, take care.